The Antiquities Act was created in 1906, and what it does is it gives the sitting president the power to designate a national monument. Although the president has that power to designate a national monument, using the Antiquities Act, it doesn't mean that he does it unilaterally. In the campaigns that I have been involved in national monument designation, the process is sometimes years. It takes years for the process to happen before a president will use the Antiquities Act. It hasn't been a Democrat or a Republican. It has been presidents from both parties have used the Antiquities Act to designate national monuments. During the process to designate a national monument, an area with unique and special characteristics is identified by the public, and it starts the motion, find a way to permanently protect these amazing places. Many monuments in the Southwest have been designated by presidents using the Antiquities Act, but a president will not use the Antiquities Act arbitrarily. He will use the Antiquities Act to designate a national monument only after there is community buy-in from almost every sector in a community. When the president's administration sees enough buy-in from the communities surrounding this land proposed for permanent protection, that a president will say this place deserves permanent protection, and he will use the Antiquities Act to designate a national monument. The first thing that people who oppose anything that the government has their hand in, especially when it comes to protection of public land, the taglines that they use is, this is a land grab. And this is, they're taking away our rights, our public lands rights. Well, normally a national monument is designated on public lands, whether it's Bureau of Land Management lands, U.S. Forest Service lands, other places that may have some level of protection already, but they don't impose any protection on private land. Even if there are private holdings within a national monument boundary, those lands remain private unless the private landowner chooses to either trade the government for another piece of land that they can use outside the monument, or sell it to the government somehow. But lands are never just taken from people to establish a national monument, especially private lands. Many times people say we are going to lose our rights if a national monument is designated. And by rights, I mean like grazing rights, to graze your cattle on this public land, hunting, fishing, wood gathering, camping, hiking, bird watching. Any of these uses of these public lands, well, they're important to everybody. They are really important to people culturally, economically, and so forth and so on. So during the time that a national monument is getting established, all of these uses can be written into the monument documentation, to the origination documents. The national monument is going to be designated, but within that designation, we are not going to eliminate or terminate anybody's right to graze their cattle on this monument. In fact, we are going to secure grazing rights on the national monument in perpetuity. So all of these things can be written into the origination documents. Hunting will be allowed, fishing will be allowed, camping will be allowed, hiking, biking, whatever it is. And these come to pass and materialize through a process called resource management plans, or RMPs. Once the monument is designated and once things have been established in the origination documents, then the community has their opportunity to say, well, I wish the monument would do this. I wish the monument would allow this. And there's a misconception that if the government designates a national monument, that everybody is going to be chased off the land and you're not going to be able to drive through it. You're not going to be able to fish or hunt or graze your cattle. It all just has to be addressed in the process of getting a designation. The truth is, what is allowed on a monument, even after designation, comes from the people. It's a fairly democratic process, and people's voices are heard, and they're taken into consideration. What's good for the land, what's good for the people, and what's good for the wildlife that lives on this land. It's all taken into consideration, and then resource management plans are born from these conversations. And I think it's a great opportunity for people to assert what they feel that land should be used for. And I know that there has even been attempts by states, Arizona being one of them, to repeal the Antiquities Act and not allow sitting president of the United States to designate national monuments. I think that's a big mistake, because if you look at the history of the use of the Antiquities Act, presidents of both parties have designated monuments. And I think that privilege, or that ability to designate a national monument by a president, should never be erased. I think it's a way for a president to follow the will of the people to create national monuments. And if people are violated by that, then they don't quite understand the goodness that comes with the designation of a permanently protected national monument. These places will outlive all of us. They will be here for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren to enjoy without getting destroyed, because humanity, we have a way of destroying everything in our path. And if we're allowed to, we will destroy these beautiful places as well. So sometimes conservation means protecting ourselves from ourselves, and designating these places and protecting them so that our children can experience some of the beautiful things on this earth that we have, and so can our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. We as American citizens, we have equal rights and equal ownership to all of these public lands. It's a tragic mentality for people from a certain state to think that the public lands in their state only belong to them. I am happy to share the public lands in New Mexico with anyone who wants to come and visit this spectacular place that I live in. I would like everyone to come and experience the Rio Grande del Norte and raft down the Rio Grande Gorge and see what the world has for them in that canyon. It's beautiful. There's wildlife everywhere. There's the rapids and fishing and hiking and all kinds of stuff. If people could see that as I have seen it, their lives would be enriched as mine was. So I think sometimes we get caught up in, we don't want outsiders to come to our place. And when it isn't our place, we are of this place. We are all of this land. It doesn't matter where we come from, and it doesn't matter who we are or what color our skin is. If we are an American, we have equal entitlement to these public lands.